Hello and welcome to the Atomic Lizards podcast. It's time for another episode of our Now Playing series, where we look at the latest movies that are currently playing in theaters. I'm Dan, the kaiju extraordinaire, and I'm joined by Miranda, the film fanatic, and Udi, the de facto film expert. Today, we will be discussing the newest entry in the DC Extended Universe, The Flash. The Flash was released on June 16th and was directed by Andy Muschietti and written by Christina Hodson, with Joby Harold handling the story. The Flash stars Ezra Miller, Sasha Callier, Michael Keaton, Ben Affleck, and Michael Shannon, among many others. As always, this will be a spoiler-filled discussion, so if you have not yet seen The Flash and do not wish to be spoiled, turn back now and return after you've watched the movie. This is your final warning. So let's get into it then and start with our first impressions. We'll start with you, Miranda. What are your first impressions of The Flash?
My first impression. Well, I went and saw it by myself, and I got an icy and some pretzel bites, and I was like, I'm ready to have fun. And actually, I had fun. I originally thought I was going to hate this movie with a passion, just because everyone was like, it's gonna be bad. Turns out, wasn't that bad. Um, it's just a silly little multiverse time travel movie where Barry Allen learns his lesson about how he shouldn't mess with time travel. Well, hopefully he learned it, but he probably didn't learn it. So, there are some things that I liked, that we can get into later, and then, um, some things I wish would have happened, like the inclusion of like the Arrowverse stuff, but other than that, like it's just a fun little movie. So if you're bored, you know it's a popcorn flick. So yeah, those are my initial thoughts.
Honestly, like an icy with pretzel bites, that sounds great. Like I could go for that right now.
Yeah, very
But
tasty.
yeah, I bet. But all right then. So we'll shift it on over to you then, Udi. What are your first impressions of The Flash?
I'll keep it nice and simple. I thought it was fine. It's been for months. It's been kind of a meme between you and I, Dan, because it's been touted as like one of the greatest comic book movies ever made in the
Yeah.
history of comic book movies and movies and blah 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 blah. It was fine. I had a feeling it was just going to be fine, and it was. So I mean, no real shock there. I didn't ever expect to hate it, and I never really expected to love it. Um, so yeah, it was fine. I guess to elaborate more than just saying this is fine three times over, um, it was a lot funnier than I expected it was going to be, but there is also a lot of. I feel like the more I've thought about it after watching it, the more I've disliked it. I don't think I'll ever change to a position where like I hate it or I straight up dislike it, but it's kind of forgettable. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
All right. I guess we'll shift it on over to me then. I just want to say just for our viewing audience right here, so I'm one of the few people out there that actually prefers DC over Marvel. Yeah, I know, crazy, but I don't just watch the movies, so so I'm our resident DC fan here, and so I'm a little biased when it comes to DC, because I just love the characters in the universe and the world so much. So whether that bias has anything to do with my thoughts on the movie, I guess we'll see. But here's what I thought of The Flash. So, I found The Flash to be quite enjoyable, honestly. Now, is it the best superhero movie of all time, as we've heard from the likes of Tom Cruise, Stephen King, and James Gunn? No, it is not. But it's also, at least in my opinion, far from being the worst superhero movie of all time. There is some genuine fun to be had in The Flash. It got quite a few actual laughs out of me. The action was pretty good at times. It was cool to see Keaton pull off some Batman moves. Sasha Callier's Supergirl was way better than what I was expecting, and there were some cool set pieces as well. Now, it's not without its issues. The visual effects are terrible. Some of the attempts at humor can come off as a little cringy cringy or annoying, and there are a few questionable cameos that could be considered in poor taste. But all in all, I did enjoy my time with The Flash, and I could definitely see myself watching it again, although I'll probably wait for a sale before I buy the Blu-ray. But all right, so those are all of our first impressions of The Flash, our first initial thoughts. Now we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into other parts of the movie that we liked, disliked, and maybe some parts that were we thought were cool. So let's head into that.
I could just start off with some things that I thought were cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Um, One, I don't think the CGI is as bad as everyone's saying. It's better than the CW TV show, so that's something.
Yeah, but that's a TV show. It's gonna have a smaller budget by default. This is a multi-million dollar Hollywood movie.
Yeah, that took like 6 years to make because they first had, like, announced it in 2018. So there's like a bunch of production stuff that like happened in between there. So, but cool things I like. I like how they show like time travel. That's not really been seen before, where he's like in a coliseum type thing where he can see um where Barry can like see the timeline. I like the fact that like the timeline is a bowl of noodles. I actually kind of like that concept a lot more than the branching timelines. Where it's like there's certain things that intersect on every single timeline, and we're just kind of in a bowl of noodles.
Yeah, that was pretty good, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was like one of the best sort of visualizations of the multiverse that we've gotten to date. That was very clearly and well explained.
yeah. And I think everyone's kind of used to multiverses now, but they do explain it pretty like clearly and concisely. And that's what like the Flash TV show did too. They introduced the multiverse into that, and it was very like they were very clear on how it worked and stuff. And I think DC is actually, out of those two examples and with DC's Legends of Tomorrow, I think they handle multiverse and time travel quite well. I would say maybe a bit better than the MCU has handled it. Um, but we won't get into that right now. So those are kind of um some things I liked. I You mentioned cameos and maybe in poor taste. I'm not 100% sure what you're referring to, but I did like that Nick Cage was a Superman because he voices Superman in the Teen Titans Go to the Movies movie. And I know people have issues with Teen Titans Go because it's not like the other Teen Titans cartoon. Um, but I thought that was like a fun inclusion.
Dude, I cannot believe they had Nick Cage Superman. Like I was just not expecting that, and like it was kind of cool because like that comes from like a canceled DC project from the 90s. It was going to be a Tim Burton directed Superman movie, and Nick Cage was going to be Superman, and it was called Superman Lives. And not much is known about it other than that Superman apparently wasn't going to fly and he was going to fight a giant spider. So that's why we saw like that big robot spider in there. There's a really interesting documentary if you want to look more into it. I think you can find it on YouTube called The Death of Superman Lives. So like if you're ever interested to like hear more about that, you can watch that documentary. But the cameos that I was talking about that could be in poor taste were Christopher Reeve Superman. Uh, do you know who Christopher Reeve is, Miranda?
I watched I what that's the one from like the 70s, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
he was Superman from the Richard Donner films.
Yeah, okay. Just watched the first one of that like a week ago. So, not in preparation for The Flash or anything, just because I wanted to watch something and I was like, I haven't watched this yet. My dad was like, it's good. So, uh very new to the Superman movies.
That was the one because there's a lot of people that feel that that cameo, that Christopher Reeve Superman, was in poor taste because you know the actor's dead, and they're just like using his like CGI likeness. And there were some people that didn't find that appropriate. Now, me personally, I guess I didn't mind it too much. I wasn't that disturbed by it, but I can understand why some people would feel a little grossed out by it.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like with Star Wars with like Tarkin and uh Leia and the other people they've like CGI created. It's like where's this going and how can we handle it appropriately? Because it does feel kind of iffy. Like
Yeah, especially because like, what was the even the point of having like Christopher Reeve's Superman there other than to be like, oh, look at this cool cameo that we have, you know?
yeah, they could have totally replaced him with Brandon Ruth because he did play Superman. He also plays the Atom in DC's Legends of Tomorrow. So like I guess there was other options, but maybe they're doing it to like I don't know. Maybe if this movie was a bit different or it like incorporated it a bit more, maybe it would be some way to like honor Superman, but this is a Flash movie, not a Superman movie, so
Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, I feel like they were just trying to cash in on like the nostalgia, like how they did with Keaton's Batman, and so having like the most iconic Superman to date, like the original, I think that was the idea. But I mean, yeah, it is kind of gross. I think like the only real thing to do in a situation like that, like if it's a studio that wants to like bring someone back who's passed away into a movie like that, is at least get the blessing of the family and obviously just like pay them for the deceased family member's appearance in the film. Because at the like as long as they're okay with it and they get like some sort of monetary compensation for it, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, it's not the individual giving it's not their choice, unfortunately, but at least like their family that's still here, for better or worse, can at least still get something out of it if they're okay with it. But if I haven't looked into it at all, so I don't know if they did or didn't. But I hope that at the very least they did that and they didn't just like include Christopher Reeve. That's the actor's name, right?
Yes.
Or is that the direct? Okay, yeah. So that's just my sentiment on yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I kind of agree with that. So I don't know. I mean, I haven't like you're saying, I haven't really looked in to see if like Andy Muschietti or any of the producers like got in touch with the Reeve estate and like, you know, asked them, "Hey, is it okay if we use this likeness?" But yeah, I don't know. But I mean, what were some of your like, I guess, favorite parts, Udi, or parts that you thought were cool at least?
Unfortunately, not as many parts as I would have liked, but I don't really have that much nostalgia for the Keaton Batman. Like I was aware of that Batman growing up, although that Batman predated me by like 20 years. So I mean, I didn't really have any sort of attachment to it. I remember growing up and seeing the Batman, or not the Batman, the Batmobile from Keaton's Batman, and thinking it was cool. But outside of that, I didn't really have any connection to that iteration of the character. However, that being said, I did think that the Batman fight sequence when they first infiltrate the Russian base that's holding Supergirl captive. Um, but yeah, the that being said, Keaton's Batman fighting his fight sequence in the Russian base where they're holding Supergirl captive was pretty cool. I thought it had enough. Like, I think my favorite aspect of the fight sequence was him using his gadgets throughout, and then like still having like nice punchy punches. Um, so I thought that was pretty cool. And then the Batwing was kind of cool too. Um, aside from that, I don't know. There's not really a ton. I mean, Supergirl herself was cool. I thought Sasha Kaye did a really great job with the limited screen time and limited dialogue that she had, but I thought she did a really great job. And I thought, I guess like another thought or another scene that I thought was cool was when she's fighting Zod and then he reveals that he killed Clark as a baby or as a young kid or whatever. And she's like, "What did you do?" And then she lasers him. That's pretty cool. Um, and aside from that, Yeah, I mean, cool scene wise is probably about it for me. There weren't like a ton of like things that I thought were that neat, but um, yeah, it was the movie itself was a lot funnier than I thought. So like one of my favorite parts is when Supergirl's like, "Do you know what the symbol on my chest means?" And Barry too is like, "Supergirl," and then I thought that was kind of funny to go back to like that joke again. And then the other part that I thought was really funny was at the end where George Clooney shows up, and then Barry's just like, "Who the fuck are you?" I thought that was great.
I cannot believe that freaking George Clooney returns. Oh my
Yeah.
god. I cannot believe that. But you know what? We don't need to worry because supposedly James Gunn confirmed on Twitter that the Batman movie that's going to take place in his rebooted DC universe is going to be Bruce Wayne, and they haven't cast him yet. So I don't think we need to worry about Clooney returning.
I mean, I don't really know how much we need to worry about this entire Flash cast returning because the movie bombed, but I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Does that mean the Robert Pattinson Batman is not in DC multiverse or DCEU?
Unfortunately not. No, the Robert Pattinson Batman series is its own thing outside of the DCEU and outside of Gunn's rebooted DCU. So, and
Yeah.
that's mainly because the director Matt Reeves doesn't want to be involved in like any type of like connected cinematic universe.
That's
Yeah.
fair. I wouldn't want to be either. Not the. Also, I feel like that Batman movie has a total opposite like feel to how DC's feeling now with like the Suicide Squad and the Flash, where they're a little more like comedy ishy based. But I guess James Gunn might change that. But
Yeah, you have
Yeah.
a point, but we'll see. I'm really, once again, we talked a little bit about it in our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 episode, but I'm really interested to see what James Gunn is going to do with Superman.
I also just I don't know, like me personally, and I think just we got used to like the MCU, but I don't think that we need to have every movie in a cinematic universe feel the same or be similar, like in tone. Like I don't see the issue with like having like a super dark Batman sub franchise as a part of like the overall like DC franchise, and then have like Superman movies that are like light and hopeful and like sweet and tender, and then have like more action. Not that I don't know enough about the other DC characters like to know exactly if this would fit with those characters, but like for example, then have like more action packed, like kind of buddy cop type, like Green Lantern movies, and then have like uh more serious and um, mystical, like Doctor Fate movies, for example, like stuff like that. I don't. I just feel like we don't need to. I feel like that's part of the reason why there's been a bit of more superhero fatigue because even though they might be different in like visually, a lot of the MCU movies do have like the signature MCU uh, wit and humor style, I guess, to them.
I agree with you. I don't think everything needs to feel the exact same within a cinematic universe because I feel like that kind of constricts creativity. And like I can understand why producers and like big film studios like Marvel would want to keep things feeling the same because they want to keep it as, hey, this is our style. This is how you'll know that you're watching a movie from us. But no, I think that filmmakers should definitely be given a lot more creative freedom when it comes to making movies that are maybe a part of a whole connected cinematic universe for sure. We were talking about like scenes that we liked and scenes that we thought were cool. I agree with Udi. I did really like Michael Keaton's like one big action set piece as Batman when they were breaking Supergirl out of that Russian, like, was it a Russian prison or whatever? I don't really, I think it was a Russian prison, right?
Yeah, it was some sort of Russian military facility, so could be
Yeah,
like
that's a better description, but yeah,
a
I
Russian
did.
Area 51.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much was. They were holding an alien, so. But I did really like that. You know what else I really liked? I actually really enjoyed. Oh well, I mean, I guess that's true, but I thought it was cool seeing at the very beginning of the movie, seeing Flash run from Central City to Gotham. Like I thought the way they like showed that was really cool. My only gripe is that everything around the Flash was moving really fast, but the Flash himself was like moving slow. I didn't like how they did that, but like seeing just how they showed his super speed at that opening scene was pretty cool. I also liked the joke where they're about to like show the title of the movie, but then you got the fans going, "Oh my God, Flash!" and like interrupts the movie's title. Like I thought that was kind of funny, and like I said,
Yeah,
there were some like genuine laughs to be had in this movie. One of my favorite jokes is when Keaton is explaining the, time travel in the multiverse and using spaghetti, and then he's like puts the sauce on there and he's like, what we got is one big mess." And then he sprinkles like parmesan on top of the spaghetti, and then other Barry's like, "What does the parmesan mean?" Like that was really good. I liked that joke.
the Barry one is like nothing. The metaphor is over. It's just Parmesan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That was great. And then yeah, man, I was very pleasantly surprised by Sasha Calle's Supergirl. Now, we're going to talk about me being the resident DC fan. My favorite DC hero is Superman. I love Superman. He, it's always a constant battle for who's my number one favorite between Superman and Spider-Man. Like some days Spider-Man's my favorite, other days Superman is my favorite. But I love Superman, and I was always salty when I found out that Superman wasn't going to be in this movie and that they were going to use Supergirl instead. It's like, why can't you guys use Superman? Like, what the heck? Like, because this movie is almost, not exactly, but almost. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. This movie is an adaptation of the Flashpoint Paradox, which was a big crisis-like event in DC Comics where the Flash goes back in time, prevents the death of his mother, and pretty much screws up the entire DC universe. So in that original Flashpoint story, Supergirl takes the or super like I guess in the Flash movie, Supergirl is taking the place of Superman in the Flashpoint paradox, because in the Flashpoint paradox, I mean, we all know that Superman's rocket landed in Kansas and he was discovered by Ma and Pa Kent. Well, after Barry screws up the timeline, his rocket doesn't land in Kansas. It actually lands in the middle of Metropolis and creates this giant crater. And the US government takes hold of him and holds him captive, and like he's super weak, super skinny, emaciated because he hasn't received any sunlight. Now they switched that for the Flash movie. Instead of Supergirl's rocket landing in Metropolis, I don't even know, do they say where her rocket lands? Like I don't even remember. But her rocket lands somewhere and it ends up getting discovered by the Russians. And yeah, she pretty much takes the place of Superman in this movie. So I was always kind of salty about that. But man, she was great. She was easily one of the best parts of the movie. And I don't know what the future is gonna hold for her, because James Gunn is gonna do a Supergirl movie for his new DCU. It's gonna be an adaptation of the comic Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I don't know if he's gonna keep Sasha Calle or if he's gonna cast somebody new. But supposedly, from like I heard this just today, that Sasha Calle did meet with Gunn and Peter Safran about maybe being Supergirl in Woman of Tomorrow, so we'll see. I mean, if you ask me, and this is an entirely different conversation to be had, so I'm not going to get too much into it, I would rather they just completely reboot the DCU with what Gunn has planned. But it seems like they're going to keep some elements from the prior DCEU in it. So like if they are going to keep some prior elements, I wouldn't mind if they used Sasha Calle for Woman of Tomorrow, because yeah, she was awesome.
Yeah, I very much agree. I would prefer that they just fully reboot, or at least just um like keep his Peacemaker characters and then reboot everything else. Like I even if that's a little iffy to some people. I don't care. That's like the best DC stuff outside of like that's the best DC stuff in the main DC universe right now. Because like the Batman is an Elseworlds project, and like the Joker, even though I don't really like that movie, is an Elseworlds project that's popular with people. So I feel like they're just better off getting rid of all the other Snyderverse stuff and just starting fresh. But I mean, it would be cool if Sasha Kaye got like a different role, but like another lead role with something in like the new DCEU. But I don't know. But I mean, yeah, if they wanted to give her another shot, it's like a completely different take on the character. I mean, I'd be okay with that too. But I'm intrigued to see what they do.
Yeah, and like I said, man, I agree with you too. I think they should just completely reboot because I don't understand why you want to keep associating with the prior DCEU because, and once again, this is why I disclosed that I'm the resident DC fan here. The DCEU is a failure. Like, the only movie I can think of in recent memory that was a big success was the first Aquaman. Literally every other movie that has come after that has underperformed. And like not even like you said earlier, man, The Flash is bombing right now. And like they still have two projects coming down the pipeline. They still got Blue Beetle and they still got Aquaman 2. Now, early test screenings say that Aquaman 2 is one of the worst comic book movies of all time. So like I doubt that movie's going to do as well as the first one if it's really as bad as they say. And then we kind of texted about this earlier. But like Blue Beetle is a lesser known DC hero and because of that, I just don't think that movie's going to do well at all at the box office. So like these movies don't bring in any money. Why do you want to keep associating your new universe with these failures? Like I understand if Gunn is attached to the world and characters that he created with the Suicide Squad and with Peacemaker, but like you were saying, those were some of the best parts of DC. And like, if you want to keep some of the older elements of the DCEU, yeah, keep what you built with the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. But like, why have Jason Momoa stay as Aquaman? Why have Ezra Miller stay as the Flash? You know, and Gal Gadot already confirmed she's not going to come back as Wonder Woman. So like, there's room there to cast someone new as Wonder Woman. But I don't think you should keep Ezra Miller as the Flash. I don't think you should keep Jason Momoa as Aquaman. And then like I don't know what's happening with Zachary Levi as Japan as Shazam. I almost said Japan there for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on with Zachary Levi playing Shazam, but last I heard the door was still open for him to potentially return, so I don't know. I don't think they should do that. It should just be full on reboot, recast everyone, if you ask me.
I think
Yeah,
they should keep Margot Robbie though. She's got a great Harley Quinn, and I know Birds of Prey is like everyone's like it's garbage or whatever. I actually really enjoy it. I think it's a very good movie, and I think there's very good things about it. But like they could keep all of them. Like
yeah.
that
Well,
movie wasn't bad. The characters were bad.
she falls in that like Peacemaker sort of corner, like the Suicide Squad DC
Oh,
part.
okay.
So like, I think she
Yeah.
would.
I
She,
guess that
I
makes
agree.
sense.
I think like all the Birds of Prey characters and her, like I think they should be kept along with like Peacemaker and any other characters from that vertical slice of the DCEU.
I might be about to get my DC fan card revoked here, but I actually haven't seen Birds of Prey. But I
What?
have heard.
You should.
I
It's
know.
good.
I
Well,
know.
I
I want
like
to
it.
watch it. No, I want to watch it because I've heard from Udi that it's good. I've heard from you that it's good, and then my coworker the other day was just telling me that it was pretty good. So I do need to watch that. But
Yeah,
I'll get around to it eventually.
it's definitely not like revolutionary, but it's a fun movie. It's it's like as good of a movie you could ask for like what that property is to be. Granted, I'm sure it's probably not super comic accurate in a lot of different regards, but it's a fun movie in its own right. So
It's
I guess.
one could say it's a bop. Get it? Birds of Prey bop.
Yeah, I got it. I
Boo.
got
Don't boo my joke. It's a great joke.
it. I did want to say, um, I do feel like because I've been like kind of torn on because they've been saying for like the last like year when they announced that they were like releasing the last few remaining Snyderverse movies this year, or the original DCEU movies this year, that they've been like, oh well, we're just gonna wait and see how these movies perform and then we'll decide. Like if this had been a huge success this weekend, then I think there's genuinely possibility that Ezra would have been kept on as the Flash, and we would have gotten a sequel and yada yada yada. But because it bombed, I think it's a clear indicator that they're going to leave this behind. Ezra, even though they really tried to kind of rein it in and take care of themselves and whatever. I mean, it seems like they've been doing a good job taking care of themselves, which is great. But um, they have also done a lot of not great things in the last couple of years, whether because they were in emotional distress or not. That doesn't necessarily, or not even necessarily, it doesn't justify the actions they've done. So it's unfortunate that right when they seemingly were about to take off with their career, they made these poor decisions and are now dealing with consequences. But it doesn't seem like they're going to be brought back for future projects. I would assume after, especially after the performance of this movie. Um, I also wouldn't be opposed to like because I guess we're now in the DC multiverse now. That I wouldn't be opposed to like certain people coming back as different characters. So like I would not mind Jason Momoa coming back as like Lobo,
Oh my
but
god, Jason Momoa as Lobo is literally perfect casting. Like
yep.
seriously, perfect.
Not only does he look like him, but he also just like acts like him, right?
Yeah, no, he has the personality to do it because once again we're once again getting a little bit sidetracked here. So
Yeah, I'll
but
keep it brief.
yeah, but like I never liked his portrayal of Aquaman because he plays Aquaman off as this big, yeah, hang 10, bro, like dressed like a bat. I dig it, stuff like that. Where Aquaman is royalty, he's a king. Like, and Jason Momoa doesn't act like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, even at the end of this, like we just got a scene where he's just drunk with Barry, and it's
Exactly,
just like,
yeah.
okay, but why? You're a
See,
sailor,
that
okay?
was a I was so disappointed with the after credit scene because James Gunn himself, when he revealed his new plans for DC, he said that the Flash was supposed to reset the DC universe. And that's exactly what the Flashpoint event does in the comics. Because in the comics, after Barry fixes the timeline, DC is rebooted into the New 52 universe, which was that big relaunch that happened in 2011. Like that's what the Flashpoint did. So I was under the impression that the Flash movie was going to reboot the DCEU into James Gunn's DCU, but that's not what happened. Nothing happened. All that happened was George Clooney came back as Bruce Wayne. like
I mean, they did kind of reboot the universe. It just wasn't like how you and I had talked after the movie, where it seemed like the best idea or the best thing to have done would have been to like tease the new DCU and just like build from there. I mean, granted, we didn't really want this universe to carry on, but that would have been like the ideal thing to do. But obviously, they didn't have the casting and stuff for Superman and everything done, so they couldn't. But um, I do have a feeling that they might keep this as an option. Like they technically rebooted, and technically Barry is in a different timeline than the main DCEU. So maybe they'll just be like, "Oh, the Flash did reboot the DC universe, and those characters still exist, but they're in a different reality or universe than the main DCU now. So we're good to do whatever now." Haha. Like that might be a way to get around it, but yeah, it definitely didn't end in the most ideal place, that's for sure.
yeah, I was very disappointed with the ending, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I guess to kind of circle back, to talk about the parts that I liked, because I did talk about some of the jokes. The I also agree that the fight between Supergirl and Michael Shannon Zod was pretty cool. Although Michael Shannon Zod felt like a nothing burger in this movie. Like he was just there and that was it. Like I was expecting a little bit more out of Zod, but I really didn't get much.
He felt like Endgame Thanos.
Well, even then, I felt like Endgame Thanos had a bigger role than Zod did in this movie.
I mean, yeah, he had more dialogue at least, but I guess I just mean in the way of like, he just compared to like his original outing, he just felt like a hollow, just evil villain shell.
He did because Zod was one of the best parts of Man of Steel. Like he was great and that Michael Shannon was great in that movie. But yeah, in this one he was just there. But I will say I'm surprised that they decided to actually kill off Michael Keaton's Batman and Sasha Calle's Supergirl because when they were first died, I was really surprised. I was like, "Oh my god, they killed them off." I was not expecting that. But then they go back in time to try and fix it. So I was like, "Oh, they're just gonna go back in time and then they're gonna survive." Okay, I see what they're doing. But no, they actually die again. So I was really surprised by that. Although I'm calling a little bit BS on how Supergirl died because her skin should be invulnerable. She should not be able to just be pierced like that with a knife. Now, you could argue that it's Kryptonian armor and Kryptonian made materials, so that's why she was able to be stabbed, but like I'm not sure metal from Krypton would go through the same change that the biology of Kryptonian skin goes through when being exposed to yellow sun radiation. Like it would probably in the end still be just metal. So it still kind of doesn't make sense to me, but I guess you could also argue that maybe Supergirl didn't drink in enough yellow solar radiation for her skin to become invulnerable, but then again, we do see the Russians shoot at her and the bullets bounce off, so I don't know. Maybe they just forgot. What did you guys think of like quote unquote Dark Flash? I did think he was kind of interesting because like I was unsure of how they were going to adapt Flashpoint without using Eobard Thawne, otherwise known as Reverse Flash, because in the original Flashpoint story, Eobard Thawne is the one that kills Barry's mother. So that's what sets off all the events. But there is no Reverse Flash in this movie, so they use this like Dark Flash character who I guess is Barry's younger self but always constantly going back in time to try and like fix the moment where Keaton's Batman and Talia's Supergirl die, but like he does it for like so many years to the point where he's just like an old man. Like I don't know, I thought that was kind of interesting. I wish they could have executed it better though because like he shows up and then he just dies right away. It was super anticlimactic. Like I thought there was going to be like a big battle or something, you know?
Uh, I thought it was interesting too. I've seen, I don't know, 4.5 seasons of the CW's Flash before it got bad. Um, so I was familiar with like Barry's origin story and how they handled Flashpoint in that show, and I was kind of expecting like a carbon copy repeat of it. But they changed it up, which was really nice. I thought that like old Barry was like a time wraith. They show up in like DC's Legends. Also, for context, for I've only really watched the DC television shows and not and a select few DC movies, so I'm not the most like into DC um things. I don't have that much knowledge on it. But anyways, I liked what they did because at first you don't think about it, but other Barry gets stabbed and has like metal sticking out of him, and then they'll like reveal that, oh, this purple metal guy is actually that Barry. I thought it was very interesting. Like that didn't even cross my mind. So the fact that they like kind of subvert the like time police type trope with the wraiths that they have in those TV shows was like very interesting. I mean, I think it was handled well. I think they could have like maybe added more depth to it, maybe, or like I don't know, explained like added a bit more to the character. So because we only see him one time before he shows up again, and like you're just like, oh, that guy pushed Barry out of the timeline. That was weird.
For me, I was kind of like when the like Dark Flash first popped up. I'm like, I wonder who it's gonna be. And then I just kind of because he wasn't really in the movie until the end, kind of like he got teased like at once Barry started messing with time, and then once randomly in a scene that made Dan jump.
Oh yeah, there was a jump scare in
The
the
jump
movie
scare.
that did kind of get me.
And to be fair, I remember we were watching like, what is that? Like, and all of a sudden his face is just on the screen. I'm like, oh, it's Dark Flash. Okay, because I was like, what is that? What are we looking at? I couldn't even tell. Um, but then yeah, once we get to the end, it seemed pretty obvious. The main thing was like as soon as you see like the first chunk of Kryptonian ship or whatever or suit that gets stuck in Barry Two's arm, I'm like, oh, he becomes Dark Flash, and then yeah, we get the reveal. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, that was a little bit too much setup for something that was pretty easy to predict. And then of course the awful VFX once his like face gets revealed. But yeah, it was pretty. I think the whole third act is pretty anticlimactic. Uh, like the idea of Dark Flash is interesting, but like he was barely in the movie, and they didn't do anything with the character. And then yeah, and then it was like I'm gonna kill you, and then Barry too, of course, sacrifices himself, and then they just both kind of go away, and then oh, it's okay, well, problem resolved, and then the movie ends, and then you get Clooney Batman. It's like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah,
where we're ending. Cool.
I would have appreciated at least some type of speed battle between like older Flash and Dark Flash, and then maybe like Dark Flash is about to kill like older Barry, and then that's when younger Barry steps in and sacrifices himself. Like just something, but just the fact that he dies right away was just super jarring. It's like, oh, okay, that's enough of that, I guess.
I think it would have been more, and I mean, because of how they set up the rules of the movie, it probably wouldn't have made sense. That's probably why they didn't do it. Plus, it probably would have been a lot more expensive, and this movie was already super, super expensive because of all the reshoots and changes that they made over time. However, that being said, one thing they could have done that would have been more, at least visually interesting, is, yeah, have like a speed battle where they kept not teleporting, like speed traveling to different realities. So instead of having the giant, weirdly colored bubbles of different realities crashing together, you could have had them like fighting, but like going to different realities, seeing all these heroes or something. Like they could have had the same shots, I guess, of the heroes, but just been like them looking at them fighting, like, huh, what's going on there? And then all of a sudden they jump to a different reality or something. I don't know. I just feel like that would have been a little bit more visually interesting, and at least they
No,
would have fought or done something. But
I like that idea. Like that's way cooler than the cameos just showing up for no reason.
and just hanging out in the chronosphere.
Yeah, really. No, I like that idea. That's pretty cool. But speaking of the cameos, I do think it's kind of funny because like nobody is going to understand Nick Cage Superman unless they know about the backstory about
Yeah,
Superman Lives. So like to your average Joe that doesn't even know that Superman Lives was ever a thing, they're probably just sitting there thinking, what the heck? Why is Nick Cage Superman?
They're thinking of Teen Titans Go to the Movies. He voices
Yeah, I
Superman in
guess.
that.
Yeah.
Which I heard that one's actually a pretty decent movie. Like they
Yeah,
did a pretty
I've
good
heard
job
Teen
on that
Titans
one.
Go to the Movies is actually not bad, and there's actually some really like funny dark jokes in there. I want to talk about another thing that I actually kind of liked with the Flash. I actually liked how older Barry kind of like had to come in and mentor his younger self, and was like, his younger self is this big goofy guy. Like the first time we see him, he's like literally doing this stupid dance as he's like taking the trash out or something. It was really funny actually. But and like older Barry kind of gets annoyed with like having to deal with his younger self. Like I kind of like that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think like obviously going into the movie, I knew that were going to be two different berries, but I didn't realize that one of them was going to be younger. Plus, I didn't really think about like before going into the movie, like the dynamic of like one berry is the motherless berry, and the other one is the one who had both of his parents growing up and lived a wonderful, beautiful life. And seeing the differences in this older, more experienced Flash Berry with like the younger Barry who's like hasn't had to feel true like sacrifice in a way and like hasn't really had to do anything that's too crazy outside of his like regular suburban life. Like it was really interesting to see the dichotomy between the two. So it was interesting to see how they both interacted with each other and with different characters in the world because it's like two different takes of the same character in the same movie by the same actor, but just different, technically different characters.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like how they handled that. What did you guys think of like younger Barry? Like I did like him at points because he did get quite a few laughs out of me. I already mentioned like the Parmesan joke. I like when he first uses his powers and like all his clothes burn off and then he's come back, he's like just buck ass naked, and then older Barry's like, "What did you do?" And he's like, "Oh, nothing." Like that was really funny. Um uh Let me think here. I there
Shuffles
was a
into his room.
yeah, shuffles into his room. Yeah, I also liked the part where he makes his own flash suit out of the Keaton bat suit, and like it was always well known that like Keaton couldn't turn his head in that cowl, so like he attempts to like turn his head in the mask, and like a mask just like stretches over his face. Like that was really funny.
That was really funny.
Speaking of the Flash suits, yeah, I did not like what they did with the Flash suit. Um, well, one, it's probably a CGI suit, like like they did a Green Lantern or the time travel suits in Endgame. But I don't know. It like I guess worked for the movie, but like I don't know. I think it would have been cool if they would have made like a practical Flash suit. Like they make practical Batman suits. Why can't we have a practical Flash suit? But
I'm
No,
pretty
no,
sure
I
they were both
agree.
practical.
it didn't look
No,
like
they
it.
didn't. Yeah, especially Barry's suit at the beginning of the movie. It didn't look practical to me at points. But then again, we could be wrong.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure they were both practical, but like obviously Barry One's suit has visual effects elements like the glowing lines and stuff that's not real. That's not practical. But like the suit itself, like the red leather suit, I'm pretty sure was real.
I mean, the glowing lights could have been practical. They did it for Tron, so they could
I
have
mean,
done it for
yeah,
this movie, but
they could
I
have,
don't
but
know. Something about it was just off. I was like, something's weird here.
You
But
know what I don't understand? I didn't get why the color of the Speed Force changed at times. Like at times it would be red, which is what it's supposed to look like a yellowish red, and then at other times it would be blue. Like why?
I
I
think
didn't
they
get it.
did that to like distinguish the two of them because younger Barry or Barry 2, the other Barry, whatever we're calling him, runs in blue and then the older Barry runs in that reddish yellow.
See, that's what I thought at first too, but I swear there are times when older Barry's Speed Force is blue.
Hmm.
yeah, you're right. There were a couple of times I noticed where like I don't remember if like thematically it made sense or not, like in the scene, but it like yeah, it stuck out to me because there was a couple of times where like they both had their powers and whatever, and then all of a sudden Barry one had blue. Like at the end, once like they step back into the new DCU reality or whatever, I'm pretty sure he had blue Speed Force again. It wasn't yellow, red like at the beginning of the movie.
Then I did not notice that. I just noticed that they were color coded differently
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
and then
like
like
the big battle at the end.
and then even in like past DC EU movies, like in Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then even in his cameo, even in Flash's small cameo in Suicide Squad, the 2016 Suicide Squad, his Speed Force color is blue. So I don't know. I do prefer it being kind of the yellowish red because like that's just what I'm used to. But yeah, I do find it weird that they chose blue at times. But another thing that I really liked was because Flash got his powers by literally being struck by lightning and being doused with random chemicals, and it's funny when he's bringing that up to younger Barry. And he's like, so here's what's gonna. This is the night that I got my powers, and younger Barry's like, oh my god, I'm gonna get powers. This is so cool. And he's like, all right, so you just gotta sit there and get struck by lightning. And then he's like, what? I don't want to be struck by lightning. Are you insane? Like, I thought that was really clever how they did that.
The fact that Barry's life is so different that like they literally have to break into the place to be by the chemicals to get struck by lightning is like you change one thing and the timeline, literally everything changes.
yeah. And then speaking of younger Barry not wanting to get struck by lightning, that part was funny, but I was not expecting Barry 1 to lose his powers. That was a pretty like big thing. Like watching the movie, I was like, oh, whoa, he actually lost his powers. Because I was wondering because they were setting it up of like, oh, he's just gonna get struck again. Okay, interesting. I wonder what's gonna happen. And then he lost his powers. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Because I mean, in the trailer, like I only really watched like the first or second trailer. I didn't really watch anything beyond that for this movie, and so like I always just saw the big fight at the end where they're fighting at the end, and so I was like, oh, okay, they both have their powers or whatever, and so him losing his powers was unexpected. He was like, oh, what? Wait, how is he gonna get his powers back now? But then obviously we watched the movie like, oh, okay, that's how.
Yeah, and once again, like that is kind of what happens in the original Flashpoint comic because when Barry first wakes up in the altered timeline, they do it a little differently in the movie because he has his powers for a little bit in the movie, but in the comic he doesn't have them at all when he first wakes up, and he has to try and replicate the accident that gave him his powers in order to get him back.
Yeah. In that it's like the same thing in the movie, right? Or as the movie, right? Where like it fails the first time and they have to try again.
Yes, except yeah, he doesn't have Supergirl there to bring him up into the sky to try again in the comic.
Yeah, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, unfortunately, but yeah, so I liked that. One of the aspects I didn't like about younger Barry was they gave him this stupid laugh that I'm sure was supposed to come off as like funny and comedic for his character, but it just came off as annoying. Like I did not like his laugh at all. It's literally the whoa, the guy
I
from
The
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob, yeah.
Yeah, the high tide, whoa. I did not like that at all. But all in all though, I wasn't too annoyed by younger Barry other than his laugh. Like I could easily see somebody like being super annoyed by younger Barry, but I wasn't that bothered by him. How did you guys dude, the beginning was just insane to me because like the whole like building just collapsing and there being like a billion babies about to like fall to their deaths, like holy
Baby
crap.
shower.
Yeah, like a literal baby shower, like holy crap, man. Like what was okay, little backstory. Me and Udi went to go see this movie together, and during that scene there were these two guys next to us that were laughing their asses off during that scene, and it was honestly somewhat concerning because it's like, dude, these babies are literally about to fall to their deaths. Like if this were to happen in real life, this would be like one of the most horrifying things to like ever experience. And you got these two guys sitting next to us just laughing. Like what the heck, man?
This makes it better or worse, but it actually wasn't two guys. It was like a middle-aged dude and his like, if I had to guess, like 10-year-old daughter, and they were
Oh,
both laughing like crazy. And like, what is happening?
yeah, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned right now, but
Yeah, I
but
was
I mean,
confused.
yeah, dude, that scene was insane and like
The microwave.
yeah, he literally puts a baby in a microwave to like keep it from getting burned alive, and it has created quite the discourse online. It's actually really funny because somebody took the footage of at the end where he takes the baby out of the microwave. Somebody reversed it, so he's putting the baby in the microwave,
Oh
and
my
like
god.
it's really funny because like the like girl is like screaming and whatnot, and like so it looks like he's like literally putting her baby in a microwave. So it's just, you know, Ezra Miller doing Ezra Miller things. But no, man, but I can't tell because there are people online that are, I don't know if they're trolling or not, but like they actually believe that the Flash cooks a baby in a microwave in the movie
Oh
because they
my
saw
god.
that reversed footage. And I don't know if they're trolling or not, but if they're not, that's even more hilarious, honestly, that people actually think that.
I actually think that would be part. I mean, no matter what, technically speaking, the Flash does put a baby in the microwave. Like for
He
all intents and purposes,
does.
that does happen. But he doesn't just do it to do it. He does it to save the baby's life. But
Yeah, and it's not like he starts the microwave.
oh god, I will just say the absolute balls on whoever made the decision to do that. Not at all. I mean, I just didn't expect that scene at all to happen. So as soon as it started shaping up to do that, I was like, are they actually like gonna do that? Are what?
Yeah, I know. That's why it was so crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty insane.
But it
But
was kind of cool to see how the Speed Force worked.
oh yeah, yeah. And I did also like that kind of visual gag where you have the whole baby shower and Barry is like, "Oh no, I gotta save all these babies," and you see him reaching out, and then all of a sudden he just goes and breaks the vending machine first, eats a bunch of food, and then starts saving the babies.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
He also saved a little puppy as well.
He did, yes. Therapy dog, I think.
But
I
that
like
intro. Oh, go ahead, Miranda.
I like that the I like that the credits was just that scene, but from the dog's point of view. So you
Yeah.
just have a slow
Yeah,
motion falling CGI dog, and you just occasionally see like a baby or like the Flash in the background. And I was like, this was a good choice for your credits here. It fits with the movie.
Yeah, I agree. But that beginning portion also gives us one last look at Ben Affleck as Batman. Now, Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman is you either love it or you hate it. There was potential there for him to play a really good Batman, but he just didn't play the right Batman. Because, like, the Batman in BVS is just this old, mean man who just doesn't like I shouldn't say he doesn't feel like Batman because he does, but he's just way too hardcore of a Batman. Like he's literally blowing people up, stabbing people, branding people. It's like, all right, this is getting kind of ridiculous even for Batman. But I thought his last hurrah as Batman in the Flash was fine. He still kind of acts a little out of character for Batman. Like Udi, I'm sure Udi will point it out when he talks about what he thought, but like, I thought it was kind of weird that they gave him a Batman voice because, like, in BVS, he used a voice modulator to disguise his voice, which I always liked. I thought, like, if Batman's gonna disguise his voice, that's the way he needs to do it. But here, they just straight up gave him a Batman voice, which was a little jarring. But I did really like the part where that truck explodes, and then they're wondering where he is, and then he just comes spinning out of the explosion. Like, that was cool. Not gonna lie, that was really cool.
I back in the day was a BVS apologist. My how I've grown. But Yeah, I mean, as time has gone on, I just realized that, yeah, because Dan, you always pointed this out to me, and you were definitely right. But as much as I do like Ben Affleck's interpretation of like Bruce Wayne slash Batman in certain regards, I'm not going to say the whole interpretation, but in certain regards, and I mean, it's not just his interpretation; it's also down to the writing and the direction he's given and stuff like that. But I did really like certain parts of that, like his dynamic with Jeremy Irons' Alfred, and like the visual aesthetic of his Batman. Like I love his Batcave, his Batmobile, his Batsuit. I loved the voice modulator. I really did not like that they got rid of it in this movie. But yeah, so being like me enjoying that aspect of that character, you were always right in the sense that his Batman to the core was not Batman, because Batman's number one rule is not killing. And sure, there have been certain interpretations in the past where that certain interpretation of Batman kills or whatever. And I mean, to some degree, all versions of Batman can kind of kill. It's just he's not out there shooting a gun at people, but like, oh no, I blew up this thing and people were there. They didn't get out fast enough. Oh well, they were criminals. It's their choice. But like, he killed them. But that being aside, like all that aside, um, yeah, like his just straight up brutality and just recklessness just was not Batman. And I felt like in Zack Snyder's Justice League, I guess kind of in Justice League, the theatrical cut of Justice League, um, kind of there as well, but a lot in like Zack Snyder's Justice League, he definitely seemed to be a bit more Batman-esque. Like it took the events of Superman dying and sacrificing himself for man for him to be like, okay, I was wrong. I shouldn't have judged him. Blah 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 blah. Turns him more hopeful again, and then he becomes more like an actual Batman. But in this one, I mean, he wasn't like a hateful, angry, vengeful Batman like he was in BVS, but he felt just absurdly reckless to me. Like I feel like there were moments where he should have been more careful to like not hurt civilians that were just recently crashed into because of the people stealing the case with the chemical at the beginning of the movie or whatever. But he would just like run right into them and stuff like that. Like he didn't feel like a hero. He just felt like someone chasing down the bad guys, and it just stuck out to me a lot. And then yeah, I wasn't a fan of the no voice modulator, and I wasn't a fan. I really wasn't that much of a fan of the suit, to be honest, that he had in this movie. And it's unfortunate because it's like it's his last outing as Batman probably ever, and so it's a little unfortunate, especially as someone who really liked certain aspects of his original Batman in Batman vs Superman. But as Bruce Wayne, I still thought he was fine enough. So that's just me. But what about you, Miranda? You have any hard thoughts on Ben Affleck's Batman in this movie?
Not really. No, he's Batman. I mean, I saw Batman v Superman when it came out. I think it
You
was
loved
actually
it.
one of the. I think it was. It might have been the first DC movie I saw in theaters. Uh,
Oh wow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
interesting choice, right? Um, but I thought he was Batman. I was like, okay. I
I mean, yeah,
I don't have much to say about him.
that's fair.
But I think a earlier point was seeing Barry run from Central City to Gotham. I do really like that they included that part too. Like I thought that was like um a good little thing to be like, hey, these people do work together and there is a Justice League, and a lot of times in other movies they'll be like or like specifically the MCU is like, why didn't Captain Marvel show up to help the Avengers? Be like, well, one, she wasn't a thing yet in the series, but um they like included that in this movie where it's like, oh, here's Batman, he exists, they still work together, here's Wonder Woman, she still exists, hey, here's Aquaman, they included them, um probably just to get probably just to like stop the comments of like, if this thing was happening, why didn't these people come and help type thing. So I do like the inclusion of Batman, but as for his portrayal of Batman, I got nothing.
And
Fair. That's valid.
you mentioned Wonder Woman showing up. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman does make an appearance at the beginning of the movie as well. And once again, as a Superman fan, it just aggravates me. Why couldn't they at least get something for Henry Cavill? Like, Udi, didn't you say they actually filmed something for Henry
They
Cavill and
did, yeah.
they didn't use it? Like, I don't understand that. Why?
I'm pretty sure I mean, again, they changed so much at the ending of this movie and certain cameos a ton of times, and they were putting it in, taking it out, putting it in, taking it out, testing it with audiences, changing it, blah 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 blah, like over and over and over again for like the last year. But last year, before Black Adam came out, I would say in like September ish, when they got Henry in to do the Black Adam cameo, they also had him do a cameo, I believe, for Shazam 2, I think, and then mainly for the Flash. It was Black Adam and the Flash, and maybe Shazam 2. I don't fully remember. But they definitely did like Wonder Woman for Shazam 2, and then they did Wonder Woman for this as well. But yeah, at the end of the movie, I think they had shot a different cameo with Henry Cavill as Superman, something for the ending of the movie. I don't quite remember what it was supposed to be from what I remember reading, but yeah, and then obviously they took it all out once they decided to not keep Henry Cavill.
Like, I just don't understand that. Why literally include everybody except him? Like, I don't get it. Like,
I,
I know there's a new Superman movie coming out, and he's going to be played by someone completely different. But like, you can have like Robert Pattinson's Batman is out there. Heck, this movie had two Batmen. Like, come on, dude.
I do kind of feel like it's just because there's so much toxicity in regards to Henry Cavill being Superman. I guess I should clarify. There's a lot of toxicity for fanboys of Henry Cavill's interpretation of Superman and the whole Snyderverse as a whole. And maybe they just thought showing him one last time would bring more harm than good, especially after they brought him back for Black Adam, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he's totally getting a sequel finally after almost 10 years, totally,
God, yeah.
totally," and then lied about it.
That was oh god, so that was so bad. They bring him back and then they're like, "Yeah, he's getting a sequel." Nope, he's not. My god.
Yeah.
That's besides the point though, but
Maybe
yeah.
they just didn't want to CGI his mustache again.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, once again, as a Superman fan, just the lack of Superman was annoying, but we did, I guess, kind of get Superman and awful CGI faced Christopher Reeve and Nick Cage. And heck, we even got PS2 Henry Cavill at one point, so so
I, I
I guess it wasn't without I guess Henry Cavill didn't show up. You know, I guess that's not true. Him not showing up.
yeah, I do just want to say, if it doesn't bother you at all, it's totally fine. But the VFX, in my opinion, were egregious.
No,
Like,
I agree. The VFX were awful in this movie.
and the fact that they're trying to push a narrative now that it was a creative decision to do, I'm like, I am
Oh,
so sorry.
that's I
No,
such
absolutely
BS.
not.
Yeah, no, I ain't buying it, Andy
And
Muschietti. I'm not buying it.
like, if you had said something before the movie came out, I'd be like, okay, maybe. But like the fact that it's only after the movie came, like, oh no, 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 we did it on purpose. Like, yeah, sure you did. Yeah, totally. But like, I don't know. I don't do VFX. I don't do any of that. So if maybe I'm simplifying it, but I feel like there had to have been some way they could have done like some sort of filter that looked like they spread Vaseline all over all of the chronosphere people so that they looked just like fuzzy or like kind of like paintings. And I feel like that would have done so much more instead of trying to have them be crystal clear, 4K crispy, and have them look awful like they did. Uh, because good grief, it was so bad. It was so distracting.
Yeah.
It pulled me out of the movie every time. And then even some of the face replacement shots with when there was like two berries on screen. For the first half of the movie, I would say it wasn't very noticeable. Like there was a few times here and there, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's definitely the fake berry with next to the real berry. But there was a few shots in like the third act. I'm like, oof, that's definitely the fake Barry. Holy crap, that looks so bad. But yeah, in general, though, I would say the worst offenders of the bad VFX were definitely all the Chronosphere scenes, and of course the haunting VFX babies from the baby shower.
Yeah, those babies. Oh, good God. But
I
I
don't,
guess.
I
Oh,
don't,
go ahead.
I don't get it. People say the VFX is they're bad, right? Like I'm not. I don't do that stuff, but I have like learned how to like identify certain like types of VFX and like whatnot, comparing like good and bad and stuff by watching like content and YouTube videos analyzing things. But like, I mean, they're not like bad. Like, sure, they don't have like, I don't know, they don't necessarily have weight to the characters, and sometimes there's like glitchiness and stuff, but like, I feel like if you're watching things in motion, they're not like being very like if it's in motion, they can cheat things a bit and like I don't know, maybe we're just getting too realistic with CGI where it's getting into that uncanny valley. So when we see a movie like Flash and it's like, "Oh yeah, the CGI is like terrible. It's like so bad." It's like is it it's not technically like bad. It's just maybe it's getting a bit too realistic. And like they're losing that like weight to like the CGI. But like I don't know, I thought it was okay. But like maybe there's probably stuff I missed, but I just wanted to mention that. Like
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. You mentioned
fair.
that that we're getting a little too realistic with the VFX. Well, that's why I think these VFX are so bad because they look too fake. Like I bought up PS2 Henry Cavill. Like there's a scene where the Flash is like traveling through time, and then they're like showing Henry Cavill from Justice League where he like gets resurrected. Like he looked like an early CGI PS2 cutscene. So like that's partially why I think the VFX looks so bad, but that's just me. And you mentioned the uncanny valley. There's a scene where it's showing like Barry's mother and like her face is just like super creepy and very uncanny valley.
That is a valid point about the uncanny valley, though. I guess that is like a factor to because getting a perfect um like un what's the right word? Not untraceable, but like not noticeable. To have like a VFX like CGI face that you don't really notice that is VFX is super hard. And so I
mhm.
do think that's like a factor. Like they had to do so many different faces because there's so many different people and characters and sequences happening all in the chronosphere scenes. So I guess it's fair that to bring up the uncanny valley because I'm sure that that was just like a ton of work and obviously even getting just one face is difficult. I can't imagine getting all the different faces. Although granted, a lot of them were just like repeating throughout in the chronosphere, but that's
Yeah,
besides the point.
but like the chronosphere is like him slowing down time and like messing with reality. So for them to like look like bad, like not realistic, like makes sense for the scene. Like it makes sense that these things are going to be off because he's like slowing down time. He's messing with reality. And like I don't know, that's the way I interpret it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is just how this version of time travel like look. Whereas like I wasn't fully expecting anything like super realistic or anything. At least for those parts.
Yeah. I guess just like on that note, like since it's frozen time, I would expect them to just look like the actors were just frozen in time, but it very much just looks like digitized versions of these people but frozen in time. Like I don't know. It's just that distinction of like it doesn't look real And I mean, yeah, it could just be like since it's time, it's not like a concrete thing, and he's changing it. But I don't know. It's either way. My main thing, I guess, is just that it feels like very much like a scapegoat that like they're now trying to twist it into like, oh, we meant to have him look like that, and I don't know. It
Yeah.
also just feels weird because the movie was like they were working on like yeah, it was in development for a long time, but like it was in production for like post production for a long time. Um, and so it just feels weird that after all this time, they still look like this and they didn't turn out better. But I mean, people worked on it. I'm not trying to make people feel bad about it, but I don't know. That it just kept taking me out of the movie. I guess is like my biggest um, problem with it. It was just very distracting to me. But
Yeah, no,
it,
I totally like get that and stuff. It's like unfortunately CGI artists and everyone who does visual effects are probably overworked and underpaid, and they definitely should have more time dedicated to these things so they can develop the the models and the textures and stuff on all of these people. Unfortunately they don't get that much time to do those things, so they got to do what they can only do what they have time for, which is like how most CGI is like, oh, this CGI sucks. It doesn't necessarily suck. It just means they didn't have the proper resources or time to do it to the best of their ability or to the standard other people want them to be at. But I
yeah,
totally get what you're saying.
and I do also want to add to your point as well that it is unfortunate that when VFX are great, people don't say anything because half the time you don't even realize that what they're looking at are VFX because it's so good. And they only point out, oh, at least a lot of the time, people only point out the bad stuff, the stuff that they're like, oh, that looks so bad, that looks so fake. Like, yeah, what about all the other shots that look amazing though that you don't even realize are VFX?
Well,
Nothing to be said about that.
I think the part into that though is now I apologize if this makes me sound arrogant, but the expectation, especially for a multi-million dollar movie, is that the VFX are going to look good. So maybe like that's just the expectation. So that when it looks atrocious, that's why you have everyone pointing it out because no one's expecting the VFX to look bad. And that's not to say there aren't movies where with really good VFX that get the praise.
Yeah, I mean, that is a fair point. I did just want to add that I guess I meant it more in the sense of as far as like feedback that like VFX artists get, because like VFX artists are just people. They're people that do their job because they're passionate about it. Like Miranda brought up, VFX artists unfortunately are overworked and underpaid almost all
Yeah,
the time, and
I
so
I just want to
the
say real
least,
quick. I just want to say really quick that when I'm bad talking the VFX, I'm not you know going after
yeah,
the people that made them because yeah, like they did their best. It's just they probably weren't given enough time by the studio.
yeah, and especially like this movie that was being changed so consistently and constantly for like the last year. I mean, I'm sure even they didn't know half the time. Like, are we even going to put this in the movie? I don't know. Like, what are we going to put in? What are we going to take out? Like, they weren't sure probably what was being kept or what was being moved around or whatever. But yeah, like my main point was just that in the grand scheme of things, of like people giving feedback on social media and online and whatever through whatever channels they do, most people just end up complaining about VFX, but they never point out when they see a shot that looks the like. I guess my to your point, like it might be so good they don't even think about it, they don't even realize that it's good VFX, or maybe they're like, oh well, that's how it should look, and that's fair, especially for like a multi-$100 million budget blockbuster. But yeah, I guess to walk back my point from earlier, a little bit of yeah, some of the VFX are pretty egregious and took me out of the movie, but there were also shots that looked pretty good or very good. Um, and I guess those should also be noted to not
Well,
just be a negative Nancy.
Well, yeah, like because like I said, other than the fact that the Flash was moving slow, I really liked the opening scene, the run from Central City to Gotham. Like that was cool. I liked that scene.
Yeah, his whole kickoff, like when after he had the interaction with his fans was really good. Like the detail on the suit and then like the pavement and then him taking off was really cool.
Yeah, they still gave him that goofy ass run though. Like I hate the way he
Yeah.
looks when he like his arms flailing about. Although we do get a really funny payoff when he doesn't have his powers and he's doing that goofy run like at normal speed. Like that was really funny. I like that scene.
In Star Labs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. What
His
did you
run.
guys? Oh, sorry, you go, Miranda.
Oh, I was just say like his running form. I don't know anything about running form, but it seemed like he was crossing his entire arm across his entire body, and I was a swimmer, so if you do that, that's like terrible. I don't know if that's the same way in running, but I'm like, shouldn't you keep your arms at your side and not cross the center of your body when you run? But that could just be like the CGI or the goofy run that you guys were talking about. But
Well, I can actually add on to this. I'm sure Udi can too, because we were both cross country runners in high school. And I was always taught like you need to relax your arms. And because if you move your arms too much, you're going to get tired faster.
Uh, Technically, yes, but the rule of thumb is the faster you pump your arms, the faster you pump your legs. So, I mean, you don't want to literally be moving your arms as fast as the Flash in real life because then, yeah, you'll tire yourself out. But
Well, I mean, for like
theoretically,
short sprints, that works.
I mean, yeah, for short sprints, yeah. I mean, yeah, it ultimately depends on what you're trying to run for. But like if you're trying to do like longer distance, like you more want to just stride. We're getting a
Yeah.
little off topic. I'm getting a little
Yeah,
too
we don't
specific,
need to talk about that, but yeah, that was to
I just
answer your
want to,
question real quick.
yeah. So are you're not supposed to cross the center line of
no.
your
No,
body?
you're
No,
not supposed
okay,
to do that.
that's
Yeah.
what I thought. But you guys are the running experts here, so
Yeah. Barry's just making an interesting choice, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Udi, you had a question.
yeah, what were you going to
Sounded like you did.
say? Yeah, you were like
uh,
what did you guys think and then yeah, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna ask you guys what you guys thought. They weren't even really his friends, but what did you guys think of his two like lab or crime, whatever his job is? I don't even
His
remember what his job is.
coworkers.
His coworkers. What did you
He's a
guys think of like
forensic
his
scientist.
coworkers? That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of them? Like, because he was technically kind of friends with them in both, like with both berries, but I remember being like, what are these characters?
So I'm pretty sure the girl was supposed to be Patty Spivot, who uh is like one of the Flash's allies, and I think one his love interest at one point. Yeah, no, I didn't like how they did her because she's nothing like how her character is supposed to be. And this is where it kind of sucks to be a big DC nerd like me because you got this character that I'm sure nobody knows about. Well, Miranda, you should know about Patty Spivot. She did appear in the CW show. She was the
Oh,
cop.
yeah, I don't remember. I
Uh,
I thought they were like some kind of versions of Caitlin Snow and Cisco Ramon. Because my only knowledge is the CW show, as I've said several times before.
Yeah, but Patty does show up
But
in the
I didn't know
CW
that.
show. She I don't know if you remember, but it's the season where like Barry, do you remember the cop that he gets into a relationship, like a short relationship with? I don't know if
No,
you. That was like back in season 2. Oh, okay. Well,
I
that's
don't know.
Patty's.
It's been a long time
Yeah, I
since
was
I
gonna say
watched that show.
it's been a while. Yeah. Well, she was played by. Do you? Oh, you probably don't watch The Boys, do you?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say because she's played by Billy Butcher's wife from The Boys, but yeah, Snow, because like yeah, Patty. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be Patty Spivot because she's called Patty in the movie, and I thought I remember seeing the name Patty Spivot in like the credits or something like that. But yeah, like she was nothing like how her character is usually portrayed, so I thought that was a little off-putting to me. And but then again, she's not really that like big of a character, so she's definitely like one of those characters that you can mess around with in terms of personality and whatnot because in the end she's not a super huge character like Barry Allen is, so but I don't know, I mean, I didn't like his friends, honestly. They were kind of dicks.
Yeah, I agree. Although I think the only funny part with them was when Patty was like, "I'm Batman." That was like the only funny part
Yeah,
there.
that was really funny. You got that random guy just chilling on the couch, and he had like
Oh
a
yeah.
he had like a tattoo on. Okay, really
Oh yeah.
quickly, another aspect of the movie that I really liked was when Barry broke time. Like he literally changed everything because they bring up a point about how like Michael J. Fox plays Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Well, because Barry broke time, Michael J. Fox never went on to play Marty McFly. Instead, he played the lead in Footloose instead of Kevin Bacon, and it was somebody else who played Marty McFly in Back to the Future. I don't remember the name of the actor though.
I don't remember the name of the actor, but it was the actual
Eric
actor.
Schultz, I think.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Eric Schultz. Yeah.
It was the original actor that got to be Marty McFly in the actual movies, but then after like a week of shooting, they were like, "I'm sorry, but you're not right for the part," and then they like delayed the filming so that they could um, bring in Michael J. Fox because they had like talked to him, but he had scheduling conflicts, and so they passed. And then yeah, they were like a week into shooting, and they're like, "We're so sorry, but you were not right for the part. We'll just wait for Michael J. Fox," and so that's how he became Marty McFly.
My God. But oh well. But no, I thought that was great. I liked how Barry literally messed up things like Marty McFly being the lead in Back to the Future. Like I thought that was also kind of clever.
Patrick Swayze in Top Gun instead of
Yeah,
Tom Cruise.
Patrick Swayze in Top Gun. Yeah, but yeah, just that
I
guy on the couch with his tattoo. Like what the heck? Sorry, what were you gonna say, Miranda?
oh, I just wanted to mention that I think Patty, I think that's what you said her name is.
Yeah.
I believe um the actress is in the show Dairy Girls. And I was like, "Oh, it's that person." But unfortunately, I don't remember her real name, so I thought that was pretty cool. But that's all I had to say. Continue.
But yeah, I did like that scene where in the Flashpoint, I'm just gonna call it the Flashpoint timeline. Like, younger Barry still has the same friends, but they're like all chilling out in that apartment, and you got that like weird guy on the mattress just hanging out in his underwear with the Eric Schultz tattoo on his ankle. Like that was really funny. And then yeah, the whole like Batman, but she's like burping it out. Like that was great. Like yeah, that was another scene that I found pretty enjoyable. And what wasn't he like playing something on the keyboard as well?
Yeah, he was playing a song on the keyboard, but
Yeah.
that guy who was playing on the keyboard, he used to be like Vine famous.
Really?
So he kept like every time I saw him, like this is so weird because yeah, I think that's how he became famous. Is like he was like a big Vine person for a time. I think his name was like Rudy something. I don't remember his name, but yeah, it was funny to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna start wrapping things up because we have been going on for a while. So,
Yes, yes, yes.
let's move on to ratings then. What would you, unless there's any like last minute things you guys want to bring up? Is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up that we haven't talked about yet?
Not me personally. What about you, Miranda?
um, I mean, nothing specific.
All right. Let's move on to ratings then. Out of five, what would you guys rate The Flash? We'll start with you, Miranda.
I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. Pretty like chill, average, medium movie. Get some popcorn, have a laugh.
Nice. All right. 3.5 out of 5. What would you what would what would you rate The Flash, Udi?
I would say that I'm stuck somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3, but I have a feeling that whenever I end up watching this again, I will probably drop it down to a 2.5. So I'm going to go with 2.5. Like it is a very fine movie. It's very funny throughout. Like don't get me wrong, it's not enjoyable, but I just really feel like the third act for me just didn't really work, and then none of the payoffs at the end paid off, and so it's like the first two-thirds of the movie were enjoyable enough, and like there were still laughs to be had at the end, but I just feel like the climax didn't work for me, the resolution didn't work for me, the teasers didn't work for me, the post-credit scene didn't work for me, and so it's like the last like 45 minutes ish of the movie. We're just like, okay, all right. So yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
two and a half.
2.5. Yeah, that's completely understandable. You do make some good points. Me personally, I'm gonna have to go with the 3. It was like you said, it was a perfectly fine movie. Not anything great, but not anything awful either. I did enjoy my time with it. I could definitely see myself watching it again. Got some really good laughs out of me. The action wasn't too bad at times. Uh, I agree that the ending kind of, like, just the payoffs didn't pay off, and I thought, not reverse flash, I thought dark flash, like, that whole thing was a little anticlimactic, but I still kind of enjoyed it. But, like, I wouldn't put this in, like, my top 5 superhero movies. I don't even think I would put it in my top 10, but I still enjoyed my time with it.
Very cool, very cool. So I would have to. I'm gonna brain math it, which is probably wrong because I'm a visual arts major for a reason. But I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that our average is a 3.
Yeah, it's a 3 out of 5.
So
Boom! My math was right for once.
you heard it here, folks. The official Atomic Lizards rating for The Flash is a 3 out of 5. Well, thank you all for listening. Uh, you can find us on Podbean, YouTube, and Spotify with an already sizable back catalog in case you want more Atomic Lizards in your life. Have a good one, everyone.